Is this game worth $100? Be on the lookout for this new Xbox app. When is this controller coming out? Let's discuss. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is constantly working to make sure that you are up to date on all things Xbox. If you've been following me for a while, you know how this goes. I make videos that contain what I think are essential topics for you to know so you can stay Xbox ready. I do a lot of Xbox related content, reviews, unboxings, all sorts of things. So if you're interested in that, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed. Also, everything I talk about in videos, whether they be controllers, TVs, accessories, whatever, we have the links for those for you to check out and buy yourself. And now YouTube has this fancy new implementation for that, where you can see the links and little pictures for that on the side of the video rather than having to dig into the description to find it yourself. First up, let's talk about Diablo 4. Now, Diablo as a franchise is very near and dear to my heart. So seeing these modern iterations of Diablo come out on console, Diablo 2 Resurrected, Diablo 3, of course, which started it all, Diablo 4, it is like blowing young Ray's mind right now. It's super exciting. So for those of you who are not aware, if you'd pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition of Diablo, which is $100, you got to play in a beta they hosted this past weekend. They gave us access to 3 classes, so Barbarian, Rogue, and Sorcerer. We were not able to play Necromancer or Druid. They allowed us to level up our characters to level 25, and they gave us access to the first sort of part of the story. It was Act 1 in this area called the Fractured Peaks. And guys, what people will notice about this game when you buy it and you log in is that visually and artistically, it is a huge step up from Diablo 3. I know that's sort of to be expected because Diablo 3 came out over 10 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But honestly, guys, this game looks gorgeous. I was especially impressed with the lighting and the shadows. On console even, it looked good. I was playing on my Series X. The world of Sanctuary, they just nailed it, man. Like, no diss on Diablo 3 because I played that game a lot too. But, you know, let's be honest, guys, Diablo 3 was more cartoonish. It felt more like World of Warcraft meets Diablo, or Heroes of the Storm meets Diablo, versus a true spiritual or a visual successor, I should say, to Diablo 2. And Diablo 4, they definitely took that into account. The world feels creepy. You feel the desperation of the people and just how ravaged this land has become. I found myself interested just like looking around the town and examining the different interactions that were to be had. And that has not happened to me in a Diablo game in a long time. Usually I'm just like, okay, show me the mobs, let's kill them, let's get that loot. The game looks great, it runs great, but sometimes I'm kind of like, whoa, what's going on? You'll notice in the character creation system, the character models, the bodies and the faces, they look fantastic, and then you put facial hair on them and it's like, whoa, what's going on? That does not look great. And even like some of the shorter hairstyles, it's like the scalp is kind of like fighting through to get through those hair textures. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? But Ray, who cares, right? This is a Diablo game. Why do I care about a character creation system? Chances are I'm going to be covered up in armor head to toe with an overhead view of my character. I'm not even going to see the features I put on in character creation. Well, guys, here's the thing. For the first time and arguably ever in this franchise, the story of Diablo is very, very interesting, at least the way they present it. And your character will appear in the in-game cutscenes. So right off the bat, there is a little bit of incentive for you to put some effort into character creation or not. Now, don't get me wrong, Diablo as a series, as a franchise, they got some good nuggets of storytelling in there, but the main focus is once again like, okay, where are the mobs? Let me kill them, let's get that loot, and let's rinse and repeat. But I think people are going to be surprised at the quality of this story. At least it kept my interest. The opening cinematic for Diablo 4 is awesome. That's nothing new, really. Typically in Diablo games, it's like they give you an awesome cinematic, the Wanderer in Diablo 2, Tyrael falling from the sky in Diablo 3, freaking the birth of Lilith in Diablo 4. But I'm into the story, man, and I'm surprised that I'm saying that again about a Diablo game. There's some wrinkles in this. Of course, Lilith, the daughter of hatred, is the big bad in this game, but there's also a fallen angel, Inarius, who's trying to get back into heaven. But at the end of the day, this is a Diablo game, so if you don't like the standard formula of being told to go somewhere, kill something, and collect it, then this game is probably not for you. It's more or less the same with just a few added twists. I was coming painfully aware of the different fetch quests that they were putting me on, but I would say more often than not, the story quests were pretty interesting. There were some interesting side quests that I think were pretty cool. I enjoyed most of the things that they added. The world events and the world bosses I thought were really cool, and they were actually pretty challenging. I played as a rogue, and at first I went full bow rogue, but I felt like even as I was progressing, I felt like I had to do a lot lot in order to have a pretty decent damage output. I was like, oh, I'm throwing caltrops. Oh, I'm throwing traps. Oh, I'm doing all this stuff. And then a sorcerer would come by and just be like, lightning, Hydra summoning, and clear the mob in like a couple of seconds. So I think they need to buff the bow rogue just a little bit, at least in my limited experience. I switched to twin daggers later on, and I had a much better time. The ability tree, I'm kind of like, I don't really know. There are some very interesting combinations. You have a total of 6 abilities that you can cycle through. I was hoping to get one more slot, at least for an ultimate ability, and then I have my 6 regular abilities. But right now it's capped at 6 for your hotbar. I will say I did find myself using all 6 of the abilities, so, you know, maybe it'll be okay. But similar to other Diablo games, I found myself building around one specific damage ability, and then I had one for movement, one for buffing, and then another buff for my damage. I found myself sort of missing the old skill tree system in Diablo 3, where if you had an ability, you would unlock all of the morphs. You didn't have to spend money on each different morph. You could just change your mind and be like, okay, I want to switch it out for this one if you wanted to change up your build. In this one, you have to pay for it, and you can only have one active at a time. But the refund system is pretty straightforward. All you gotta do is pay like 100 gold and you get that ability back and you can swap it. Another knock on this game for me is unfortunately the dungeons. See, how dungeons work out in this game is that you have to do a series of objectives to unlock the door to the dungeon boss. And these objectives usually boil down to a couple of things. 1, kill all the enemies in a given area. 2, go and find these cubes and put them on these pedestals or altars, and then you'll unlock the next area. Or kill these mini bosses, collect their keys, and then you can unlock the door to the final boss. And the first couple of times through, it's fun, but I will say it did get kind of stale as I was going on. And I guess I'm not the only one who feels this way. There's this dude on Reddit that was literally like, these are the same layouts as the dungeons from Diablo 3. Which, you know, I played a lot of Diablo 3, but it's been a while, so I can't really confirm that. But I will say, at least in my experience, the dungeons were not very exciting. I don't know what they can really do to change that. I feel like this is the game that we're going to be getting in a couple of months, minus a few tweaks that they'll do between now and then. But the other things that they've added, the story missions, the world bosses, those are pretty fun additions. You can apparently have a mount in this game too, but we weren't able to get to that point. And the waypoints, they're not very convenient when trying to get to certain missions, so I can't wait till I have a mount in order to explore this world fully. I think I'm going to spend a lot of time playing this game when it comes out. Do I think it is like, holy crap, this is amazing, this is like revolutionary in gaming? No, but I think it's a solid title that, again, I'm going to spend a lot of time on. Speaking of upcoming games, we got to talk about Redfall. Now, chances are, if you are an Xbox fan, you have heard a lot about this game already, but if you don't know, Redfall is an upcoming open world FPS made by Arcane Austin, the same people who made Dishonored, Deathloop, Prey. Redfall is going to be Arcane Studios' first exclusive title for Xbox since their publisher Bethesda was acquired by Microsoft. And me and Jimmy Champagne were actually lucky enough to be invited by Bethesda to check out the game, have a little gameplay preview for ourselves. Now guys, I gotta be honest with y'all, and you will probably remember this, but after Developer Direct, after seeing the Redfall presentation, I was kind of like, yeah, I wasn't quite sold. Nothing was really grabbing me, you know, but after having played it, I am feeling a lot more hopeful. I think this game has a lot of potential. We got to check out the different classes, so if you do not know, there are 4 classes a la like a game like Borderlands. You got Jacob, who, if you play a lot of snipers, Jacob's probably your dude. He's like an ex-military sniper, and he has this ghost raven, and the raven can help him like scout, it can turn him invisible, and his ultimate ability is like automatic headshots. This is the guy that Jimmy was playing at the event. Then you got Remy. She is a combat engineer with this little robot called Bribon, and I could see this character being super efficient in solo runs. Her little robot can be sent out and can draw aggro, and I had an ability on there as well that shocked people who attacked the robot, so great for crowd control. She has this freaking C4 bomb that she throws out, and her ultimate is like a rally ability where there's a circle that appears around her, and it can heal your allies and up their speed and buff them, essentially. And you also got Layla, and Layla is the only one with any actual powers in this cast. Well, I guess like Ghost Raven is technically a power, but Layla is a telekinetic, and her ability, she can like summon a freaking like telekinetic bullet sponge that absorbs damage, and her ultimate ability is summoning her ex-boyfriend, who is a vampire but isn't evil, so vampire ex-boyfriend comes and helps her out. And then lastly, we have Devinder, who is like all about his gadgets, and this is also a character I spent some time playing at the event as well. He has his teleportation device that's kind of like Sombra in Overwatch, where he throws it and then you can teleport to it. He has this thing that he throws out which shocks enemies and again kind of stuns them. And then his ultimate ability, the way that they described it, I think this is so perfect, is that he basically like throws down the Gandalf staff like, "You shall not pass," but it's like a huge like UV light that stuns and paralyzes. One of the things I was most impressed by playing this game was the world of Redfall itself. I found Redfall to be very interesting visually. It seemed lived in, it seemed alive. If you're a fan of horror movies, it was spooky. It was like walking through a creepy, abandoned New England town. There are many different ways that you can take on a group of enemies or a boss. For example, when I was playing as Remy, I was very gung-ho because I was like, I'll send my robot out there, they'll attack him, and then I'll throw bombs. I had this gun for vampires that was essentially like a giant UV light that petrified them, and then I would just like take out my shotgun, shoot them, or like stab them with my bayonet. When I was playing as Devinder, that was a ton of fun because of his teleportation. I wasn't as efficient at taking enemies down as I was when I was playing as Remy, but the movement and the teleportation opened up so many different possibilities with going up on rooftops and scouting out for different advantages. But one time I teleported up to a roof that was like 3-4 stories above me, and there was like a bunch of different cultists and vampires and stuff just waiting for me. It was like a scene out of a movie. So anyway, I started blasting. We played this solo, but I will say this was more or less meant to be played with a couple of other people. I was playing on like medium difficulty as well, and it wasn't super challenging. I think I could stand to go up to the next difficulty the next time I play. Sometimes the vampire AI was kind of questionable. And to be completely honest, there were a couple bugs in this build as well. I went into a vampire nest, and then this little helpful pop-up came up and they were like, "Here's your objective." And then I was not able to close that, which prevented me from crouching and from sliding. So that was a little, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Hopefully they can get that stuff cleaned up before release. Overall, it was a very small sample size. We were given characters that were level 8 and access to like 1 or 2 missions we were able to complete in the time that we were allotted. So I don't want to make a snap judgment and be like, this game's gonna be a banger, this game's gonna be a must play. But I will say, after actually played it, I'm like, okay, this game, you know, it could be very entertaining. Thanks again to Bethesda for inviting me and Jimmy out. I was excited to be there as a guy with an Xbox channel, of course, and there are many more events like that to come. Me and Jimmy are locked in for a few coming up. If you want to hear more about them, again, keep your eyes peeled on the channel, and I also post about them on my Instagram as well, at State of Ray. Next up, let's talk about this new Xbox controller. Well, it's new, but sort of not, but is. I'm talking about Hyperkin's new Xbox 360 controller that is going to be compatible with modern Xbox consoles. Once again, this is being sold by Hyperkin, and it's called the Xenon model. It is a licensed replica, again, of the Xbox 360 controller, and it's compatible with the Xbox Series X and S, and with Windows PC. It's set to launch June 6th of this year, and pre-orders will go live on May 5th. Now, this controller is actually something we talked about on the channel before, but back then it was like a tease. It was sort of like, you know, we didn't really know when it was going to come out, but now we have a date, June 6th of this year, which is genius. It is a genius time to release an Xbox controller, because that is just days before the Xbox Summer Showcase on June 11th. And in terms of price, not the cheapest, but not too expensive. It's $49.99. I think this is a great addition for any Xbox Series console owner to have, honestly, because as we know, Xbox was at the forefront of backwards compatibility way before these other platforms were. So not only can you relive those great memories from those games on the 360, but you can relive them using a 360 controller on your modern day Xbox. If you want to take it a step further, Hyperkin also does a replica of the Duke controller from the OG Xbox, so you can have a controller from essentially every era on your Series X. Again, this thing is set to come out June 6th, 2023. Pre-orders will be live on May 5th. Next up, Xbox is making a play into the mobile gaming space. Now, this is something that has been on our radars for a while now. Last year, Xbox submitted documents that announced its intentions to make an Xbox mobile storefront, and that new Xbox app would appear on iOS and Google devices. And apparently it's coming sooner rather than later. We should expect this new look app from Xbox to come out in 2024. This coincides with this new law that the European Union is trying to implement, or they are going to implement, which forces iPhone iPhone and Google to allow third-party storefronts on their devices. Phil Spencer said, "We want to be in a position to offer Xbox and content from both us and our third-party partners across any screen where somebody would want to play. Today, we can't do that on mobile devices, but we want to build towards a world that we think will be coming where those devices are opened up. The Digital Markets Act that's coming, those are the kinds of things that we are planning for. I think it's a huge opportunity." Now, obviously, this could be massive for Xbox. Previous to this, gaming companies, they have not had any luck when it comes to putting their own versions of a game store or storefront on especially iPhone, because Apple, of course, they want people to go through their app store, play games through their storefront, and make money from their microtransactions. Not even Fortnite could take on Apple, arguably the most popular game, for better or worse, that's out there right now. Even with their power, they were kicked off of the App Store because they didn't want to play ball with the revenue cut that Apple was asking for. And Xbox has run into a similar situation as well. Obviously, with cloud gaming, with Game Pass, they want to be on all sorts of devices: iPhones, Androids, tablets, computers, laptops, whatever. But of course, Apple is like, we don't want a service that provides you with all these games that are, console level quality. So no, Xbox, you cannot have a cloud gaming app on our devices. So now we have this weird workaround, of course, where it's like, yes, we have a cloud gaming app icon on our iPhones, but it's really just a shortcut to the xbox.com/play URL. Having a storefront of their own on iOS and Google Play is also consistent with what Xbox has been saying for the past few months. They're like, we want to make a play into the mobile gaming space because they're making a ton of money over there and we want to get in on that. But according to IGN, Candy Crush and Diablo Immortal accounted for more than half of Activision Blizzard's overall revenue for the first half of 2022. That's crazy. The mobile gaming market needs competition. Right now, it's just Apple and Google, and that's it. So Microsoft, if this whole acquisition works out, could be an interesting third option, a potential disruptor into that market. The flip side of that is like, okay, how deep is Xbox going to go in mobile games? Is that going to be their focus? On one end, it's cool because it's like we're bringing console level game quality to a mobile gaming platform, but is the reverse of that going to happen, where it's like mobile games are starting to infect the traditional console gaming experience? Hopefully they can keep the two industries separate for the different audiences that they have out there. I don't think there's an equivalent of the Digital Markets Act here in the US or even in the UK for the CMA. And as we know, without government intervention, Microsoft is not getting a standalone storefront on iOS. It's just not going to happen. I hope that the future of this, if it works out, we could just consolidate all of that into one Xbox app. It's a storefront, it's cloud gaming, it's Game Pass, it is a remote for your Xbox. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, guys, that's all the news I have for today. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.